You ever have that feeling, you're talking to someone, maybe it's online, maybe it's even a family member, and you suddenly realize you're not just disagreeing on opinions, you're disagreeing on basic fundamental facts. It's this really strange, dizzying feeling, right? Like the ground is shifting right under you. It's the sense that maybe we're not all living in the same reality anymore. And today we're going to dig into that, into what researchers are calling the erosion of our shared reality.
Okay, let's start with this quote right here. It's from Roger Ailes, the late chairman of Fox News, and it was cited in a big Pew Research Center report. And honestly, it just cuts right to the absolute heart of the problem. It suggests that for a lot of us, the news we consume isn't really about gathering facts. It's an emotional thing. It's about feeling validated, feeling like we're on the right team.
And that leads us to the huge question we're tackling in this explainer. If the whole point of information becomes about making us feel good, or feel certain, or feel like we belong, what happens to the idea of truth itself? What are the real-world consequences for all of us when that shared foundation of facts just starts to crumble?
Well, it turns out researchers at the RAND Corporation have actually put a name to this problem, and it's a pretty serious one. They call it truth decay. It sounds almost like a medical diagnosis, and honestly, that's exactly how they treat it, as a widespread condition that's affecting our entire public life.
So what is truth decay, really? Well, the researchers define it as a kind of syndrome with 4 very clear symptoms. 1, we're disagreeing more and more about basic facts. 2, that line between what's an opinion and what's a fact is getting super blurry. 3, the sheer volume of opinion is just drowning out actual facts. And 4, there's this deep, corrosive loss of trust in the institutions we all used to count on for information.
Let's just break that down for a second, because we see this stuff every day. It's that moment you see 2 completely different sets of numbers being used to describe the exact same event. It's when you're watching a news show and it feels more like a shouting match than a report. It's when a single personal story on social media seems to carry more weight than an entire scientific study. And it's that general feeling of just not knowing who or what to believe anymore.
Okay, so that's the what, but the really crucial question is why. Why does it feel like truth decay is hitting us so hard right now? The research points to this kind of perfect storm of different factors, but we're going to focus on 3 of the big ones.
So the first cause isn't something out there in the world. It's actually in here. It's us. It's our own brains. See, we're all hardwired with these things called cognitive biases. They're basically mental shortcuts. And one of the most powerful ones is confirmation bias. It means we actively go looking for information that proves we're right, and we instinctively push away anything that suggests we might be wrong. Why? Because it just feels better to be proven right than to be challenged.
Now, you take that ancient brain wiring and you plug it straight into our modern world of screens. The 24/7 news cycle, the endless scroll on social media. It's created a whole new system that runs on speed and engagement. And you know what's fast and engaging? Outrage, opinion, hot takes. They're cheap to produce, and they spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, careful, slow, fact-based reporting just can't keep up.
And wow, this chart just lays it out perfectly. This is based on data from that RAND report, and it is staggering. So, for legitimate, real news sites, only about 10% of their traffic comes from social media. But for sites known for pushing fake news and misinformation, it's over 40%. It's pretty clear, social media has become the superhighway for this stuff.
And the third major driver? It's polarization. It feels like we're all sorting ourselves into these little tribes, right? Politically, where we live, even economically. We end up in these echo chambers where our own beliefs just get repeated back to us over and over again. We're starved of different perspectives. And that just makes our confirmation bias go into overdrive. It gets harder and harder to even find common ground.
So we've got the diagnosis, we've got the causes, but what about the prognosis? Is this thing terminal, or can we actually find a cure? Well, a Pew Research survey asked over 1,000 experts this very question. And well, let's just say they were split right down the middle.
Look at this number, 51%. That's the percentage of those experts who believe our information environment will not get better in the next decade. It's basically a coin flip, but it landed on the pessimistic side. They think the bad stuff is just going to outweigh any of the good.
And the debate between the two sides is really fascinating. On one hand, you've got the pessimists. They say, look, the bad guys are super motivated, the tech companies are driven by profit, and our own brains are just too easy to hack. But the optimists, they push back. They say, hey, hold on. Humans have always figured out how to adapt to new technology. They're betting on better tech, like AI, to help us spot the fakes, and that eventually people will just get sick and tired of being manipulated.
Which brings us to, I think, the most important question of all.
So what? Why does any of this really matter? What are the actual real-world stakes if truth decay just keeps getting worse? What really happens in a post-truth world?
The Rand report is pretty blunt about this. First, civil discourse completely breaks down. You just can't have a meaningful debate about solving a problem if you can't even agree on what the problem is. That leads straight to political paralysis. Nothing gets done. Then, as trust collapses, people just get alienated. They check out. They stop participating. And all of that creates this massive uncertainty that hurts our economy and our position in the world. This isn't just a list. It's basically a blueprint for how a democracy can fall apart.
And that leaves us with the final and kinda haunting question that all this research makes us face. A shared reality. It's like the invisible glue that holds a society together. It's the foundation for trust, for working together, for making progress. If we lose that, what do we actually have left?